Hey there, Ascension Pioneers. I'm sitting in my balcony and I'm reading my book from Dolores Cannon. It's called The Keepers of the Garden. I've already finished her book, The Convoluted Universe Part 1. Really interesting book. A lot of the topics that were shared, even I think during the 80s, and started to come through, but now, they're just about getting interesting since we're discovering so much from our inner realms and we can connect the dots so much more easily, and that is why there's this great flow and remembrance. So a lot of ancient knowledge is going to start reappearing from all of us. The important focus is on the internal process as to how we process this knowledge. But I was really guided to share about soul imprints with all of you because this is a chapter 8 here in the book. It's called Imprinting. It speaks about soul imprints. Also, you can call them templates, whatever you wish to. I mentioned this in my Ascension Update overview video, and I would really like to read exactly from the book, directly from the book, so that you yourself can get a more deeper insight and overview as to what this truly is, because I just gave a few hints in my videos until now, and I want to read a few lines. It was actually like shared through a conversation during the session, but I want to go through the parts that are the important parts here. So she started to speak with a client that said that it was his first life, and she was surprised because he was mentioning some previous lifetimes here on Earth, and she started doing sessions with the person. And she was all excited, and she said, "What does that mean? Did you say this was, you never said before that this is your first incarnation?" And he said, "Yeah, but I had many imprints." So she started to dig deep into what that is. And these are the answers as to what this is. He started explaining and why there's a reason to have these imprints. If one were to come to this planet from another planet or dimension without the aid of imprints, one would be totally lost. One would not understand customs, religions, politics, or how to act in a social environment. This is the necessity for imprint. In the case of star people coming to this planet, there is no previous earthly experience of human existence in their subconscious. In order for this person to feel comfortable and at ease, there must be something with which to draw on and compare those day-to-day experiences with which one is encountering. For if this were not so, the feeling of total out of harmony would be virtually present every single day, until there arose the time when one could look back and see some semblance of history. That is in the later part of life. However, the confusion and disharmony from having to experience this would negate any learning, for always there would be the disharmony which all learning would have to filter through. All learning would be colored with this disharmony and would be in effect no learning at all. So there must be this imprinting to allow the vehicle to feel comfortable in his new surroundings and in those experiences which would be totally alien. For even such simple things as an argument would become so terrifying to the vehicle as to render him totally void. The star people have no experience with anger or fear as you know it. It would incapacitate them, it would paralyze them, they would be totally traumatized. So then Dolores gives this speech in between that she thought, basically humanity thought that we were conditioned, um, that we believe that we were conditioned by our environment, and that this is apparently not the only case, um, because apparently the seed also already grows within our subconscious and all the memories. So the thing is that this is basically speaking about the people who have only few or just one incarnation here in this planet, that come from other realms, who come here to assist at certain times. And I will continue reading about it, the parts that are important. So here is something also. For the experience was actually lived, even though it was not lived by the vehicle you would be presently speaking to. However, all the information would be the same as if you had actually been talking to the very soul which had been in that vehicle at that time. Imprints become in reality a part of that soul and are so carried with that soul. So there is no proprietorship to these imprints. They're open to all, and so it becomes useless to try to pinpoint who was actually that person, for it is meaningless, in certain lifetimes and incarnations. Let me see. Then the important part is that there's also there is no point in who actually lived that light or not, because we all belong to one consciousness. It's like this knowledge is like a database and it's available to us all. So there's this explanation to a certain particular example as to what can happen when a certain soul, if they choose this imprint. I'll explain by reading. The imprint is determined by what the incarnation's goals are to be. For example, if one were to become a leader, a president, for example, one might have imprints from various levels of leaders, from tribal leaders up through possibly past presidential leaders, maybe a mayor, maybe a leader of thieves. If the emphasis is on leading, many imprints of a leading nature could be used so that the entity is familiar with the aspect of or the idea of what the job of leading is. There is also the secondary and even tertiary advantage of learning humility, patience, fun, and entertainment. All of the multitudes of experiences are in these imprints. The method of imprinting is beyond me. That is what the soul that is passing this information through is saying. The effect is to experience multiple lives, maybe simultaneously, maybe serially. But the effect is to learn lessons from other people's experiences. The lessons are shared. The experiences each of us are having in this lifetime now will be available at the end of these lifetimes to be imprinted for use by anyone who would have a use for them. It's simply borrowing books from a library if you would consider each life a book and reading and understanding it instantly. And he says there is not a limitation on how many can use one particular life. Thousands of people could imprint the same experience simultaneously. So she asks more about the regression to different individuals leading to similar lives. And the subject says that is true. The imprints are chosen before the incarnation. There is a method which is far too complex to understand, but you can say that there is a computer, a master computer, this part is really interesting, which has access to all the lives, everyone previous. And so the information is fed in of what is to be expected of this life, and the appropriate imprints are then selected and overlaid. There is a hierarchy of spirits whose job it is to do this, a council which oversees this. This is the soul. This computer council is given all the information regarding the mission and the past experiences of the vehicles with which to draw from. And so there is the choosing between that previous lifetime which has been deposited into the records and a match between that which pertains and the experience which is about to begin. All memory, all thoughts, all senses, everything that a real existent life would have is there intact. It is a hologram, a three-dimensional summation of that lifetime, kind of like a summary. All experiences, remembrances, emotions are imprinted into that soul and become a part of that soul. This information is then carried after the incarnation is over and is a gift from having lived in this realm of existence, and so then becomes a part of the permanent record of the soul who is experiencing this. So she says that it's like an idea. It's like we do the research in a library and get different books, and the subject says, yes, you were given books on many subjects, and with that knowledge in hand, you carry forth. Also, she asks that what is the difference, because there's you live day-to-day life experiences and then bring you forth certain rebalancing of the karma. And then the subject says, you speak from a karmic point of view, and we would say this is not accurate, for the imprint simply gives reference from which to draw on. It does not assist in working off any karma. It simply is an added tool with which to work off karma. Were everyone to receive imprints, then there would be a standstill in which no one would be experiencing true lives, and there would be nothing eventually relative to imprint from. So there is or must be real lives being lived with which to add to this record library. So Dolores says, so after a while, soul would probably prefer the actual experiences. And the subject says, for some souls, the shortcuts are appropriate. For the others, they are not. For this vehicle is now living a lifetime which is appropriate. It could be said that he could have simply waited for someone else to have experienced an incarnation at this time and then received that imprint, could it not? However, the actual experience would not have been learned. The free will of the soul is here, and that the imprint is made by the free will of the soul and not someone else's free will. All relative information is given into this computer, and those appropriate incarnations are then given for imprinting. The imprints are available from this source, but the individual makes the final decision. The soul has the power to reject if he finds an imprint which is not acceptable to him for whatever reason. If he simply decides to use his authority to say, I don't wish to have that one, then so be it. Okay, then she also says that if maybe then by this he's saying that there's no such thing as the reincarnation as we know it, and he says that there is progression from body to body. There is also the imprint. Someone may have lived actually 5 lives but yet have the experience of 500. It's a combination of effects, so it's like whatever it is, and it's all equal, from the high point of view of one. So the imprints are complete at the time of birth, he also says, but extra imprints are also available whenever necessary. This would be similar to packing luggage for a trip. This is an interesting part. And finding during the trip that one has forgotten something. And so there are stores along the way. Are you familiar with map overlays? For example, you might have the physical boundaries of the United States with no political boundaries, such as states or counties. But these would be on transparencies. Each transparency is then laid down in this succession, and a complete picture is given. This could be used as an analogy to imprints. The imprints may be overlaid in many different ways, one being in a dream or a physical experience of some sort. A traumatic experience such as a death in the family or a loss of one's job at any time where one is opened from within by some experience. But be it joyous or grievous or anywhere in between, the opening of oneself is the key here. And that imprint which is necessary will be neatly fitted in with no notice whatsoever by the entity. But the fact is, you can also actually live many lives without ever having an imprint. Imprints are simply aids. They're not necessary for everyone, but they're absolutely imperative for star people. So why was I really guided to read all of this also to you, not just reading by myself, is basically the more that you get to this level of understanding, that is oneness of all things, oneness of all creation, you see that it doesn't matter who experiences a certain life. It doesn't matter whether you will be focused on, there's a lot of people who still are so focused on past lives, and they will say, what was I? Where was I? What was I doing? Was I high priest? Was I Cleopatra? Was I Napoleon? Or whatever, like she's mentioning in the book. It's more about what you're here to do now. So imprints, no imprints, it's about the soul purpose. And it's like he mentions the master plan and the book of all records. And this is really showing us the unity of all things. On the soul level, for us souls, it doesn't matter. We have that really, that knowing that it doesn't matter who brings to the house, who brings home the bacon. It just matters how we influence each other and how we assist each other. That is what service is called, the service to the light, the service to the one source of all living things. So it doesn't matter who gets a certain imprint, whether we get it just from one person or multiple people, individuals, or we get it from a person that used to be very famous and very well known. What it matters is what will be driven from it, what will be the experience, what will be the purpose that derives from it. So I think that this is a message for a lot of the people who might still be focused on past lives, on past issues. It really does not so much matter. Right now, we're really moving into the understanding that in the oneness of all things, it really does not matter. It matters here and now, what you're here for, what you're doing, how you're to be of service, to find that own path of uniqueness. This life is a reality. It's not an illusion like so many people like to say, especially the New Age community. It's a complete reality, and this is the reality that is given to you right now. You've decided to be here at a very important time. You are all very needed right now at this time. It is very essential to be alive right now, and a lot of the souls would do anything to be incarnated here, but you are one of them. And this is important. It doesn't matter whether you're here for the first time or not, you are here now, and you have a part to play. And whether there's no imprints or 500 or multiple or none, it really does not matter. But I think this gave me a really great answer to, for instance, a while back when I was still beginning my awakening process and I was talking to some people. And for instance, this one woman psychic telling me, oh, you were high priest of Atlantis. Or there was this other woman who told me you had lives in Italy, Greece, Spain, which was the root of Mary Magdalene. And she told me I'm associated with the bloodline of Jesus and Mary Magdalene. So I have these blood codes. But for me, I really felt that I don't feel I had these lives really physically. So now that I'm reading about these imprints, it might be that I was taking from these lives, you know, because she told me you were always on a healing route, and you're like a healer by nature, but I don't feel myself so much belonging to the healer soul group. I feel I'm more like the illuminated realms, teachers, the creators who were here ever since the beginning. And it doesn't matter whether I had no lives before, prior to this one. What matters is what I'm here for now, and this is what I'm always focused on, and this is what I help to encourage other people to really be focused on as well. That is why I read from this book. Wonderful book. I'm just starting, and I'm at my 77th page. Wow, that's a great message for all of us as well. But I feel this is really important. Don't focus so much on, you know, what was your past life, but energetically, what are the things that you're dealing with through experiencing here? Because these things are showing you your purpose, your path, and your healing route. So all of us are basically healers. So for me, it's like this great answer came. You know, I always felt that I wasn't here in the way that people thought I was. It's like I trusted my inner knowing more than what other people said about me. So when certain people look in your souls, when they do your soul reading, they look into your certain energy fields, and they might feel certain things. Note that this is not that their explanation will not always be the truth, because maybe they don't know about things that are written in these books. Maybe don't they have their spiritual understanding is not as expanded as yours. So keep expanding your spiritual thinking and keep digging deeper for new spiritual insights, because they're bringing us to that one deep truth that is, you're here now. What is your focus here now? Who are you here now? And really, that is what makes the difference. So, anyway, I hope you liked the chapter about imprints. I'm starting a new one. I'm really excited. Stay blessed. I'll talk to you very soon. Bye. Much love.